Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to dive right into the ultimate blueprint for executing highly effective sprints. If you're in the trenches of Agile or Scrum, you already know the deal. The success of your entire product increment basically hinges on exactly how well you start. So today, we aren't just covering the basics. We're going to figure out exactly how to set a flawless foundation that actually prevents those mid-sprint disasters we all absolutely dread.
Because, let's be real, we've all felt the pain of a chaotic, overcommitted sprint that just leads to massive burnout. You know the exact feeling, right? Halfway through the sprint, everyone suddenly realizes there's way too much work, hidden complexities just emerge out of thin air, and team morale basically plummets. So why does this happen? Usually it's because the sprint was literally doomed before it even began. But the good news is, proper sprint planning is the ultimate bulletproof solution to all of this chaos.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the foundation, define the sprint goal, talk about selecting the backlog, and then plan the work. After that, we'll cover some critical tactics and tools before heading into the danger zone. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the foundation, defining the purpose and the players. According to the Scrum Guide, this collaborative event is what bridges strategy and execution. It's that crucial moment when the entire Scrum team aligns on what to build next to deliver the absolute highest possible value. It clearly answers the what and the how. And it's important to keep in mind that this is a time-boxed event, typically capped at a maximum of 8 hours for a one-month sprint and obviously shorter for shorter sprints. But here's a little pro tip for you. If your backlog is properly refined before you walk into that room, you won't even need the full time limit. A well-refined backlog can easily cut your planning time in half simply because you aren't wasting precious hours discovering requirements from scratch.
And to make this happen, there's actually a brilliant balance of power within the Scrum team. The product owner sets the destination by defining the objective and ensuring the backlog is prepped and refined. Then the developers figure out exactly how to navigate that journey. They forecast the work, select the items, and create a truly actionable plan. Meanwhile, the Scrum Master keeps everyone on track, facilitating the event and ensuring that all those crucial improvements from your last retrospective are actually put into action.
Moving right along to topic 1, the sprint goal. Basically, answering the question, why is this sprint valuable?
Look, a sprint without a goal is just a random assortment of tasks. The sprint goal is a short 1 or 2 sentence description of what the team actually plans to achieve. Now, the product owner might propose how the product could increase in value, but the entire Scrum team must collaborate to finalize this single, focused objective before planning ends. Think of this goal as your North Star. For instance, rather than a super vague goal like, finish the login tickets, a true North Star goal would be enable users to securely log in using single sign-on. See the difference? It creates coherence and focus, ensuring that even if specific tasks need to shift around during the sprint, the team still knows exactly what underlying value they're trying to deliver.
Now for topic 2, selecting the backlog. What can actually be done this sprint?
There's a really fascinating contrast between two very different approaches to answering this question. Velocity-based planning looks at historical averages, selecting items based strictly on average story points. But as we all know, velocity can arbitrarily bounce around from sprint to sprint. It's kind of like saying a basketball team averages 98 points a game, so they're absolutely guaranteed to score exactly 98 points tonight. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. That's exactly why capacity-driven planning is highly recommended. It relies on estimating task hours against the actual available hours of your specific team members for this specific sprint. It accounts for holidays, meetings, and, real life. This totally prevents you from overfilling the sprint based on some imaginary average.
And that brings us to topic 3, planning the work. How will the chosen work actually get done?
During this phase, developers decompose the product backlog items. They create smaller, actionable work items, usually sized to about 1 day or less, to form the sprint backlog. And the absolutely crucial point to remember here is that this is done at their sole discretion. No one else, not the product owner, not the Scrum Master, not a stakeholder, gets to tell the developers how to turn those backlog items into increments of value. This combined package of the sprint goal, the selected items, and this actionable plan, that becomes your official sprint backlog.
Okay, let's talk about tactics and tools. We're going to look at best practices for estimation and remote alignment. When it comes to estimation, every technique is basically a trade-off between speed, accuracy, and depth of discussion. Take planning poker. It's a moderate speed technique, but it's fantastic when you need to uncover hidden complexities for sprint-level stories, simply because that deep discussion catches the unknowns. But say you have 200 items in a massive backlog. Doing planning poker one by one would literally take a week. So you should swap to fast techniques like t-shirt sizing for epics, roadmaps, and early triage. Or you can use affinity mapping to size a massive backlog very quickly with minimal discussion. Basically, reserve the deep dive of planning poker for the actual work you are about to commit to.
Now, if you're working with remote teams spread across different time zones, the real challenge is keeping everyone actively engaged. Relying on an async-friendly checklist ensures all the heavy lifting is done beforehand. You absolutely need to refine backlog items in advance, draft an async-friendly sprint goal, confirm capacity across those time zones, and estimate collaboratively using story points. Checking these off ensures the live meeting is actually used for crucial alignment, active negotiation, and finalizing commitments, rather than just, passively reading tickets to each other on a completely draining video call.
All right, it's time for the danger zone. Let's identify and avoid some common sprint planning anti-patterns.
This first anti-pattern is honestly a silent killer, ignoring technical debt. If your developers don't demand adequate capacity to tackle technical debt during the sprint, your codebase is going to rot. The general standard is allocating roughly 20% of your sprint capacity to just fix bugs and refactor. And when the codebase rots, well, features that used to take 2 days to build suddenly start taking 2 weeks. If you ignore this ongoing maintenance, the team's future product delivery capability will rapidly decrease, and it's going to slow everything down to an absolute crawl.
Agile expert Stefan Wolpers really hits the nail on the head here. He says, if the product owner ignores the need for this work, the Scrum team will find itself in a downward spiral, turning slowly but steadily into an output-focused feature factory. And it's so true. If a team's capacity is constantly maxed out with brand new features, leaving absolutely zero slack time, it completely destroys their ability to self-organize, support each other, and adapt to the unexpected. People just become individual bottlenecks, and you stop building a genuinely great product. Instead, you turn into a mindless feature factory.
Moving on to anti-pattern number 2, imposed forecasts and overcommitment. The sprint forecast must be a team-based decision, completely free from outside influence. If a stakeholder points at your past velocity and demands you fill your free capacity, that's a violation. If a product owner pushes for just one more tiny feature, also a violation. Dictating scope destroys team morale, and it completely undermines the entire fundamental concept of having a self-managing team.
Finally, anti-pattern number 3, skipping planning or relying on a tech lead. Look, I know it's incredibly tempting to just let your most senior developer dictate the architecture and hand out tasks to save time, but this is a massive trap. There is no traditional team lead in a Scrum team allocating work. Planning has to be a collective effort from the entire team. If only 1 or 2 people are planning the sprint, transparency suffers. Deeply flawed decisions are made, and that vital sense of shared ownership, it vanishes completely.
So, as you take this blueprint and apply it to your next sprint planning event, I want you to ask yourself a serious question. Are you planning for value, or are you just planning to be busy? Sprint planning isn't just some administrative hurdle you have to clear so you can get back to coding. It's a highly strategic event that defines exactly how your customers' lives will improve with your next increment. So make sure your future sprints actually deliver meaningful results and not just a tired checklist of completed chores.